Hello, 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 everybody. How y'all doing? This is Siam Maxey, aka the Mortgage Maven, NMLS number 1093963, and I am back with another episode of simple information about mortgages. Thanks for joining. Hey y'all, hey. How y'all doing? All right, y'all. We in for another good episode. We got a special guest. Natasha Triplett. Yay! And she will be joining us live. Are y'all tapping in? Before I get started, I like to begin my podcast off with a song. So today, we're doing an album. I went hard and back, y'all, since we're talking about building Black wealth. I went to the master himself, Nipsey Hussle. And in his CD, Victory Lab, he has 21 money lessons. Do you hear me? 21 money lessons. And it's to help us move us through our generational wealth. So without further ado, tonight on this episode of Simple Information About Mortgages, we're going to talk to Miss Natasha about wealth. We're going to talk about building your financial house. Please welcome Natasha Triplett to the show.
Thank you so much. I had just really, as I was thinking about the song, and I'm like, yes, Nipsey Hussle, he really believed in making sure that us as Black people had a plan, and just really from motivation, all these different things, to really let you know there are some tips that you need to take in order to get your money right. And so I'm just so glad to be talking to you today, especially on this podcast. I know it's super great. And the great thing is we're reaching a bunch of great people. And, when I think about what we do and what we're talking about, it's not too many people that's knocking on our doors that's providing us with this information. And so I just want to first commend you for allowing me to be on this platform today. And then again, to the audience, I do want to introduce myself again. Obviously, my name is Natasha Triplett. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I feel like I've been all over the world. So I got a chance I went to school at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, taught there, moved to Beijing, China, and I was an instructional coordinator and a teacher there as well. The founder of the international program at my school in China. Then I moved to Houston, Texas, became a school principal. And then from there, I got my licenses in the financial services industry. And so for me, when I think about building generational wealth, it really leads me to a time where my grandmother, my sister, and I were raised by our grandparents. So my grandmother actually, her and my grandfather, they set up mutual funds for us when we were kids. And so it was because they wanted to make sure that the girls had something in place just in case they were no longer there. And honestly, when I think about that time, I was in middle school, my sister was in elementary school. And we didn't really understand what that was. We didn't really understand what creating or setting up a mutual fund was. We just knew it was some sort of savings. And so, like the typical Black family, Sam, we literally just kind of set it up and forgot about it. So when I got to college, my grandmother had a stroke and she lost the feeling in her right side. But the main thing was she hadn't given us any plan. Like we really didn't know what she had set up. And so we started receiving all of these letters in the mail from the company that it was set up through. And they're like, you need to contact us. You need to contact us. And like the typical Black family, we thought they wanted some money. Talking about creating generational wealth, we thought they wanted some money. So we ignored those letters for years. During that time, my grandfather passed away, and then eventually my grandmother passed away. And so I sat down with my brother-in-law and my sister, and we said, hey, look, well, at that point, if they wanted money from anybody, they're gone now. So let's call them. Let's see what we have in place. And thank God that we did, because we realized that we still had those mutual funds in place. We saw the financial legacy that my grandmother started back when we were kids. And then we were able to utilize that to be able to benefit us as adults, which led to my sister, my brother-in-law, and me getting licensed in the industry. And so coming from the field of education and seeing how financial literacy just isn't taught the way it needs to be taught, we realized that, hold on, wait a minute. Or I realized that, man, I want to be able to teach these things to people. I want to make sure that people truly have a game plan in place. And it starts within the schools. The fact that I came from 13 years of education and knowing that, hey, this is something that needs to be taught, is just really pushed me, which allowed me to be able to be a broker of my financial firm. And that is what I do. I teach others how to teach others about money, but then I also make sure that people all over the country have the opportunity to learn about how to build a financial house. So I'm so thankful to be able to talk to you today about that.
Okay, so since you come from the educational background and you are passionate about financial, due to everything that happened in your past, what are some steps that my listeners can take to become financially prepared for the future? Because one thing you said that stood out is your grandmother didn't give you a plan. And on last week episode, I talked about having a plan for financial wealth. So what does that look like to the Black community, or should look like in the Black community?
Okay, so I will say, I'm gonna go back to that. My grandmother didn't give us a plan, but she laid the foundation.
Come
And
on.
so I will say that it starts by having a foundation, truly understanding, number one, where do you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? But then also, what do you want your children or future children to look like? It says a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So, one, starting with the foundation, making sure that you are protecting your assets. If you want to have a plan in place, you got to protect your assets. So, whether if it is it could be your house. Because if we're gonna get a house, that is a great thing to have. But God forbid something happens to a person a month in or a year in of being in that house. What's going to happen to the house that your family is living in? So you want to make sure that you have the proper life insurance in place, right? You want to make sure you can protect those things outside of what your job offers. But then in addition to that, you want to have a plan to help you get out of debt. The reason why people can't save money is because they have a lot of debt. So just truly identifying, how much do I have coming in? How much am I actually saving? How much is going towards my debts? If everything is going towards your debts, then we need to figure out how to actually teach you how to save. Because the next part is that saving aspect. So if you can't save a bunch of money, save something. That's what I always tell my clients as I'm working with them. Put together something. If it's $50 a month, if it's $100 a month, whatever if it's $300 a month, whatever it is, make sure that you are saving for your future goals and dreams. But then also think about ways to actually grow that money. So then that's when the investing comes into play. So thinking about ways that you can grow that money so that it goes beyond just what's sitting in the savings account at the bank. And so once you do those things, from having the foundation and working your way up, then you can really have that. I would say the steps of really truly creating generational wealth. But then the last key part of that is, how is this going to look when I pass it down? How am I going to be able to pass these things down? So really having the instructions in place as well, such as the wills and estate planning and things like that, so that all the things that you work so hard for, you actually have your heirs, or your future, they can benefit off of those things that you've worked hard in building.
Okay, great, great. I'm so glad that you gave them a definitive outline on how to go, and you touched on a lot of different areas. So this is a short podcast, but I have a couple of quick questions for you because you used a home as an example. And so one of the things that many people don't do is take care of their home. They just live in them. They don't
Right.
understand that keeping up the paint and the roof and the just the grounds itself can help increase the value of the home, which makes it a better suit. But in the event, like you said, they something happens in a week, a month, a year of them buying the house, what type of tools are available that will help ensure that that house is in a position so it can be passed on to future generations?
I'm so glad that you asked that question. And, I honestly think that this subject is not talked about enough in our communities. And I'm super passionate about this. So, as a financial broker, obviously, I can do everything pertaining to money. But when it comes to protecting the asset, I always talk about life insurance. And I use a method called the dime. So with the dime method, and a lot of people say, well, I got life insurance on my job, so I got enough. So the question that I ask people is, does your life insurance coverage cover all of your debts, every single one of them? Because even though people don't know, and I would say this is a secret, but it's not really a secret, your debts don't die with you. They go to the next of kin. So enough life insurance to cover your debts, enough life insurance that covers 5 to 10 times your annual salary, enough to cover your mortgage, meaning to pay your mortgage off in full. And then the fourth thing is to cover your children's education. God forbid something happens to you prematurely. And so those things are all the things that really impact your home. If we think about the physical house, if something were to happen to you and you didn't have the resources or the money in place, how can your kids stay there? So that impacts their education, right? Because if they're on the street, how can they stay in school? But then also, if your debts are not paid off, if you have a spouse that was dependent on your income, then again, that impacts the household trajectory as well. But then we think about that mortgage aspect. You know how many people will love to get a house? They would love to get a house. They have to work hard. They got to get their credit right. They got to get their money right. They have to get their debt to income ratio right. And so to work that hard to get that house and for something to happen and the house not be paid off, it's kind of like, man, we kind of wasted time there with all the steps that it took to get approved. So just having enough life insurance coverage that protects all of that, those are the things that truly helps a person with, making sure that thing that you worked so hard for is still left to your children or your children's children. And pretty much at that point, they can do whatever they want to do with it, but at least they have a roof over their head. And at least the person was responsible enough to make sure those things were in place.
Wow, Natasha said a mouthful. Are y'all biting that off slowly, or are you trying to chop it down all at one time? So, Natasha, please tell everyone, I thank you for all the information. It's very useful. And trust me and believe, I'm going to break it down into bite-sized pieces. But before we go, please tell my audience how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me know that. I would love to talk to you all. I definitely, just like you said, it was a lot of information in a short amount of time. So my telephone number. It's everywhere. So I definitely provide my number. So it's area code 901-825-8650. So again, 901-825-8650. You can text house to that number, so I know that you came from this podcast, and you'll get a special thing if you text me and text house to that. Also, my email address is financebeyondthebooks@gmail.com. Financebeyondthebooks@gmail.com. And then if you are on social media, my Instagram is Tasha, Tasha Triplett, TRIPLETT_. So that's Tasha Triplett _ on Instagram. So those are the three ways that you can reach me. I would love to provide you with a free consultation because I believe in each one teach one. And so when we know better, we can do better, and we can pass that information on from one person to the next, but also from one generation to the next.
So y'all know Natasha be listening to me because she said my mottos: when you know better, you do better. And with the Mortgage Maven, we do better. So this has been Siam Maxey, aka the Mortgage Maven, NMLS number 1093963, and that is the chatter. Thanks for stopping by.